available for release. This is State versus Christopher Gregor, case 21-1881. Would counsel please put their appearances on the record?
Your Honor, Christine Lento appearing on behalf of the state.
Assistant Prosecutor Jamie Schroen for the state.
Good morning, Ms. Lento. Good morning, Ms. Schroen. Good morning, Your Honor. Mario Bellucci, along with Andrea Ferrante on behalf of Christopher Gregor, please seated next.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Mr. Gregor. Mr. Gregor appears again in a suit and tie, appropriately dressed for court. Jury is ready. Counsel asked a conference on a couple of issues, so that was the reason for the delay. I suppose we have the jurors come over now and go in the jury room. We can discuss any further issues while they're in the jury room.
Yes, Judge, thank you.
All right. Court staff is on the way.
Judge, when the jury goes in the back, before we bring them back out, can I just test sound?
Can you do what?
Can I test the sound when the jury
Yes,
goes?
absolutely,
Thank you.
yes. That was my plan. We can discuss anything we need to while the jury goes in.
Okay, thank you.
You can test. Thank you, Corporal Bennett.
Do you have everything you need?
No, we just have the videos to play and that's it. Can you tell me it's this one, right? It's 48.
No, she's those.
Oh, that's okay.
These are mine.
Those are the ones you have. So you
Yep,
have
that's
them,
this.
those you
This
can
is
fire
this
up.
one. Yep. I'm going to drag this to my desktop when the jury's not in the room.
It's 9:36 a.m. The jury's in the jury room. Anything from counsel outside the presence of the jury?
Your Honor, I think they approach sidebar.
Sir.
Thank you.
Council asked to speak in chambers this morning about various scheduling difficulties with respect to witnesses. We've decided that we're going to go with the state's witnesses today, see how far we get, and then make a determination about tomorrow and later in the week as well as next week. The witnesses in this case, many of them are either medical professionals and or have significant distances to travel to get here. So, and some of them have other prior commitments where they're unavailable for certain dates. So we're going to address that as we go along this week. In addition, court anticipates testimony is going to come out with respect to the defendant being in the state of Tennessee and perhaps elsewhere after April 2nd, 2021. We've previously had various 104 hearings outside the presence of the jury on that issue, and counsel had asked me to defer a final decision until such time as the trial testimony occurred. Accordingly, I need some time outside the presence of the jury, either at the end of the day today, to put some more findings on the record. Mr. Gallucci, we already marked as Court Exhibit C4 proposed charge on an allegation of flight. Is it correct that you have no objection to me placing those additional findings on the record after the fact?
I do not, Judge.
Thank you. And then last week I read a charge to the jury on the photographs from the autopsy. Madam Clerk, I don't believe we ever marked that as a court exhibit. Did you mark that? C9. C9, next in order. Thank you. It is now, yes. And then I did a proposed charge on deleted text messages, which Mr. Maldy's going to print and give to you right now. We anticipate Sergeant Coles is going to testify consistent with his prior testimony at a 104 hearing about the deletion of text messages from the defendant's phone. I was going to draft that similar to the flight charge, Mr. Gallucci, where the defendant has the ability to offer an explanation. Is that explanation that he was being threatened, or is there some other explanation?
That's the explanation, yes.
All right, so we'll give you that charge as drafted. Take a look at it, and at some point let me know if you find it acceptable and when you want me to give it.
If we're going to hear from the detective, I guess, from the CSI unit that went down to Tennessee and took his car and phone, I would probably want it after that.
All right.
All right?
Very good. So we'll have a break or whatever to look through that proposed charge, and you can comment on there any revisions you'd like made to it then.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Anything else from counsel?
No, Judge, thank you.
Ms. Strong, do you have an opportunity to test the video?
I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Part of the old one. The TV is not set to be connected to my computer, but it is.
It might be, until we put it back. Can you check that Madam Clerk? There you go.
Thank you.
Jet 1553, may I please have your name and your contact number? And what's your address at home?
It's 900 Farmgate Boulevard in North.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you could,
And the
yes.
one that says cut.
The cut version, I think.
And it was correct and everything.
That's when you got consent, right? You want to listen to it again?
I can listen to the cut version. Mario, do you want me to play the cut real quick so we can see how it sounds?
Good morning, you've reached New Jersey Child Abuse Hotline. This call will be recorded for quality assurance.
Judge, we're just making sure on this that everybody agrees about the cut version.
May I please have your name and your contact number?
Hunter Gregor, my number.
And you calling from an agency or a facility today?
No. Micciolo.
And your address at home?
It's 900 Barngate Boulevard North, unit 903 in Barngate.
Your home.
Just my dog, my son, and me.
Alright, and who is the mother to the child?
That is the person I'm calling about.
Rick?
Correct.
Okay, and where does she live at?
I'm unsure.
Do you have a phone number for her or any kind of contact?
I don't have it readily available, but you guys have been involved with us, so I'm sure that it's in the documentation.
Do you want to listen to all of them?
Sure. Alright, and what were the concerns today for the child?
So, as my son has described, that it was from football. Now, fast forward to yesterday, actually, it was this past weekend, son needed to go get an evaluation done within 7 business days, or 7 days, excuse me. His son's mother, and I had no idea what was going on. She would not leave my son's side, and I was not able to be there for my son. And then furthermore, my son came back this morning, and he was stating to me that his mom said that he had to tell the doctor that I had hit him and things of that nature and coaching him. I tried to call a caseworker, but of course he's not answering. She said that the caseworker told her to disregard the visitation and to go to the hospital.
No, I'm just going, I'm sorry, I'm going over the specific redactions with Mr.
Coming up
Galucci.
right now.
Restrict any sort of contact with
Did I skip
any
it?
sort of documentation or court order involvement, kind of stating that. So that does not appear accurate. But I mean, and I can obviously note what you're telling me, and I know that the worker didn't answer. The worker is probably.
Did I skip it?
The office is closed today. So this information won't get, passed on to a worker. That way they can see this information as part of the case. But no, there's nobody available at this point in order for me to speak to.
No, and I figured as much, but I wanted to document that my son had came home today after he was supposed to come home at 5, so I was not able to be there for my son.
Okay.
And he said it was at the direction of DCP&P. And furthermore, the big issue for me is, she put in an abuse allegation and then said it to the worker twice.
Okay.
One no problem.
Good. All right, so the court made a prior ruling about the redaction of certain statements from that recording. Mr. Galucci, you're satisfied those have been redacted?
I am, Judge.
Can you bring the jury out? Any further?
No. Thank you.
Thank you. Jury out at 9:48.
Good, right?
Jury out. All rise. Okay. You can do that.
We're changing it up today?
Please be seated.
But you have your phone. Your Honor, he has his phone because it helps control his hearing aids.
So, sir, I recall what you're saying now. You want to be able to use that to amplify the sound?
Yes.
All right, and you understand, obviously, you can't do anything else with it, correct? Thank you. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for your patience and your presence here today. Any concerns or issues you need to bring up at all? All right, seeing none, we're going to proceed with the state's next witness. Who would that be?
Your Honor, the state will call Lindsay Carnival, please.
Thank you.
Lindsay Carlisle.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning. Come on up. I just ask you to remain standing, face the court reporter. She will swear you in. If you'd raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding or affirm this testimony about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Thank you. Have a seat. Please state your name.
Lindsay Carnival,
And your last name.
Carnevale.
Thank you. Ms. Lento.
Thank you, Judge. What is your occupation?
I am a registered nurse,
And where do you work?
Southern Ocean Medical Center,
And what department do you work at?
in the emergency room.
And before you worked at SOCH, where did you work?
I recently went to Jersey Shore and worked in the NICU for a little while. It wasn't suitable for me. I like being in the emergency room, so I went back to SOCH.
Okay, and how long have you been a registered nurse for?
Almost 4 years.
Now, before you were a registered nurse, what was your occupation?
I was a paramedic
Where did you work as a paramedic?
at Monarch,
How long did you work as a paramedic for?
about 15 years.
Can you tell the jurors about your education?
I went to paramedic school for 2 years. I have advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, CPR certified.
And you have a bachelor's degree.
I do. I have associates and a bachelor's in nursing.
And what about an associate's degree?
I do.
And what certifications do you currently hold? And can you just keep your voice up a little bit so we can hear you back
Oh,
here?
sorry. I hold the ACLS, Advanced Cardiac Life Support, Pediatric Advanced Life Support, my CPR, which is Basic Life Support.
Now, calling your attention to April 2nd, 2021, at approximately 3:53 p.m., did you treat a patient at SOCH named Corey Micciolo?
I did.
Had Corey been admitted into the emergency room at that time?
He was.
Do you remember Corey?
Of course I do, yes.
Who brought Corey into the emergency room that day?
His father.
When Corey was admitted into the emergency room, what room was he taken to?
In room 6.
What nurse brought Corey to room 6?
Bill Doyle.
Were you Corey's assigned nurse on April 2nd, 2021?
I was.
Where did you first observe Corey in the emergency room?
In room 6.
Was Corey's father inside room 6 when you first saw Corey?
Yes.
Did you speak to Corey's father?
Yes.
Did you learn his name?
Yes.
What was Corey's father's name?
Chris Gregor.
What were your immediate observations of Corey's condition in room 6 at the emergency room?
Corey was very lethargic, pale. He was very sick.
Were vital signs taken?
His temperature was 96.9, I believe.
And what about blood? Was that drawn?
Yes.
When Corey was initially in room 6 of the emergency room, what was the defendant's demeanor?
He showed lack of emotion, kind of emotionless.
While you were in room 6, who else was present in the room?
Dr. Picciotti and other nursing staff.
And what about Nurse Doyle?
Yes.
And did he stay in the whole room or did he leave?
He left.
And when you observed Corey in room 6, did you see any bruising on his body?
Yes, we did.
Can you tell the jurors what bruising you observed?
I observed a bruise on his chest, a bruise under his chin, and one on his temple, his left side temple.
While you were in room 6, did medical staff speak to the defendant about a case history relating to Corey?
Yes, we did.
And what did the defendant say about the bruising?
He said the bruising was from Corey playing football and riding his bicycle.
What did the defendant say about Corey's mother?
That she was a drug addict.
What did the defendant say about contacting Corey's mother at that time?
He said that he did not want her contacted.
And what did the defendant say about Corey being at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
That his mom had had him there the night before.
What did the defendant say about Corey's symptoms before he was brought into the emergency room?
That he had been vomiting and he was complaining of light and body pain.
Now, that information, did you provide that to someone?
I did.
And who did you provide that information to?
My nurse manager, Jenna Shaw.
And was she working that day?
She was.
Did the defendant leave room 6 of the emergency room?
He did.
And what was Corey's condition?
Corey was very sick. He mumbled a couple words to me. He seized.
Can you tell the jurors what happened regarding Corey's treatment at the emergency room and his condition?
Corey seized, and then his heart stopped. He had stopped breathing. So we initiated CPR. Dr. Pachati intubated him, where he put a tube in his trachea and into his lungs, and ventilation was provided along with CPR.
And what type of CPR was administered?
Pediatric CPR,
And why was pediatric CPR
because he was
administered?
a 6-year-old little boy.
And what is pediatric CPR?
It's one hand on the chest.
Was Corey taken for a CT scan?
He was. At one point, we had regained pulses, and we attempted to bring him down a CAT scan, and when we had gotten a CAT scan, he lost pulses again, and we were unable to do it and had to bring him back.
So after that, what room was Corey brought back to?
Room 6.
Did the defendant then return to the area of room 6?
He did.
And were you present inside of room 6 at the time?
I was.
And what medical staff was present in room 6 at this point?
Dr. Pachati, there was some techs and other team members.
Did Dr. Pachati exit the room?
He did.
And what was happening with Corey's condition at this time?
Corey was not breathing. His heart was not beating. He was basically dead at that point.
Did the defendant then re-enter the room at Soch?
No.
At approximately 4:51, did the defendant re-enter the room at Soch?
He did at that point, yes.
And were you present at that point inside of room 6 with Corey?
Yes, I was.
And what was Corey's condition at that time?
His heart was not beating and he was not breathing.
Did the defendant exit room 6?
He did.
And did the defendant then ever come back to room 6 again?
No, he did not.
And who stayed with Corey?
We did. We were the only ones with him.
What time was Corey pronounced?
5:03 p.m.
And were you present in the room?
I was.
While Corey was at the hospital, what, if any, observations did you make regarding any type of bleed or GI bleed?
There was no bleeding present.
If I may approach, I'm now going to show the witness what's been marked S48D, S48E, and S48F. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors what those are?
They are CDs of surveillance from the hospital the day Corey was admitted to the emergency room.
So that is surveillance from April 2nd of 2021.
Yes.
And that would be the day that you were the nurse in regard to Corey's care.
Yes.
And you are familiar with the location that is depicted.
Yes.
And you are also familiar with the persons who are depicted on these surveillance videos.
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to play, publish, admit into evidence S48D, S48E, and S48F.
Mr. Galucci, any objection?
None, Judge.
S48D, E, and F in evidence. And permission to publish granted.
Thank you.
D, E, and F. Do you want me to play D now? D.
Tell the jurors who is located on that video?
One of our nurses, Jamie.
And does that accurately depict the defendant leaving room 6 for the first time on April 2nd of 2021?
Yes.
And there was a timestamp on that video?
Yes, there was.
And is the timestamp accurate that was on that video?
No.
We can now go to the next video, please. And can you tell the jurors who is located on that video?
Chris Gregor and one of the techs, Richard.
And what area of the hospital does the video show?
The hallway going to the family waiting room.
And there was also a timestamp on that video.
Yes, there was.
Is that the correct time?
No.
If we may now go to the next video, please. Now, can you tell the jurors who is located on that video?
Chris Gregor, Jenna Shaw, Jamie Jocelyn, one of our techs.
And Jenna Shaw, who would that be? Would that be the
The
blonde?
nurse manager, yeah, the blonde.
And does that video accurately depict the defendant entering room 6 where you were located with Corey?
Yes.
And does that video accurately depict the defendant entering room 6 where you were located with Corey?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what was going on with Corey's condition during the time of that video while inside room 6?
We were providing CPR and breathing for him.
And did you see a machine present in that video?
Yeah, Jamie went to grab a Doppler
And what would be the purpose of the Doppler?
to see if we can find pulses that we can't feel.
And this would have been at approximately 4:51.
I believe so.
And after this time period, did the defendant then ever come back into room 6?
No.
And about how long was Corey treated at SOCH before he was pronounced?
About an hour and 20 minutes.
Thank you, Judge.
No further questions?
No, Judge, thank you.
Mr. Delusion. Try.
I'm sorry.
Remember, the jurors on the end have to hear you, so.
How are you?
I've been better.
So, when Corey was brought in, you were the nurse in charge of his care?
Yes, he was my patient.
So would it be fair to say that at about 4:02, are you familiar with the record right away? Have you ever read the chart?
I looked over the chart, yes.
Okay, so you're aware of the fact that at 4:02 is when he was admitted in a critical condition? Yes?
Pretty critical when he came in, yes.
Okay. And at that time, would you take his oxygen level?
Yes,
Okay, do you recall what his oxygen was at that
I
point?
do not recall.
Do we have the medical records?
I have my copy, but I need them for her.
Can I borrow them and give it to her and then give it back to you?
Well, I would like to have a copy for myself.
Go ahead, make a copy of this.
You can look for another copy.
Judge, can I have a second to look for another copy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Certainly.
Can you just take a look at that and tell me what that is?
Just tell us what the ticket number is on there, then, please.
This
On the bottom right corner, red.
547 or S47?
S47.
S47.
Is that the hospital record of Corey Micciolo on 4/2/21 at Southern Ocean Medical Center?
Yes,
Okay. And you was a nurse, so you know what that is, right?
yes,
Okay, and I'm sure you have notations in that record, am I right?
yes.
Okay. Now that you're not the person, from what I understand, there's also a scribe present?
There's a scribe
Okay.
for the physician.
Right, so the scribe, while the physician's doing whatever he's doing, the scribe is taking down the information so the physician can do what he's doing, right?
Yes, I believe so. I don't do their job, but yes.
But you're a nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how long you been a nurse now?
4 years
Okay,
almost.
and you've been in the emergency department, I'm assuming, before, right?
Yeah.
So do you know what a scribe does or doesn't do?
I know they jot down notes from the doctor.
Okay, so that's what they do. They don't take down your notes, though, do they?
No.
Okay, you take down your own notes?
Yes.
Okay, is there an indication as to what Corey's oxygen level was when he arrived at that hospital?
I would have to find the vitals in here.
Okay.
Yes, the initial one says 85%.
What's normal? What's normal?
92 to 100.
So he's 7 percentage points lower than what's normal, right?
Correct?
Okay, so that's consistent with the child being short of breath, right?
Not necessarily. Could have not been on his finger correctly or not recording correctly,
Well,
which
did you-
happens often.
Okay, well, you're the nurse, right? Did you check to see if that was going on?
We were more worried about him and keeping him alive, and
So
he was
you-
very lethargic.
Well, lethargic
Mm-hmm.
and loopy, would that be a condition of a low oxygen level?
Yeah, hypoxic.
Okay, so if he was hypoxic, that would be a concern of yours, am I right?
Of course.
Okay, if he's loopy and tired and has shortness of breath, and you see there's a low oxygen level, is that an indication that you put the thing on wrong, or the thing is telling you, whatever you call it, is telling you that the oxygen is low?
Corey wasn't short of breath. He wasn't struggling to breathe when he came in.
Okay. But he was
He was lethargic.
okay, lethargic, and that's a sign of low oxygen, am I right?
It could be.
Okay. So you're getting a low oxygen level, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now he goes into cardiac arrest, basically, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who performs CPR?
One of our techs.
Okay. And the tech, you said, does a one-handed CPR because he's a child, right?
Yes, sir.
And generally, when you do CPR in an adult, you can almost break ribs, am I correct?
CPR is a life-saving measure. Yes,
Right.
we do what we can to save a life.
Okay, I got you. But on a child, it's different, right?
You just use one hand.
Right. A child's ribs, you're not going to break because they're probably malleable at 6 years old. Would you agree with me?
I guess. Depends.
Well, I don't want you to guess. You're a nurse. I'm a lawyer. So here's a 6-year-old's ribs, malleable or not, and is that the reason
Objection,
why
Judge.
you perform CPR differently on a
It's
child?
because they're smaller and their stature is smaller.
Okay.
Objection's overruled, that's fine.
Okay. So it's different, right?
Yeah, it's different. Body
So-
structure is different.
Now, you testified that Mr. Gregor left the room at some point, and I see him being escorted by somebody down the hallway into another room. Who was that person?
One of our techs,
Do you know who?
Richard.
Okay. And why was he escorted?
I'm not sure. I wasn't escorting him.
Okay. Well, were you in the room?
Yeah, I was taking care of his son. I wasn't
Well, did you-
escorting him out of the room.
Okay. Well, is it normal to have a father sit in the room while you're performing life-saving techniques on the son?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying that he was escorted out of the room because he wanted to get escorted out of the room?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I was paying attention to Corey.
Okay. So if you're paying attention to Corey, how would you know he was under emotional?
Because I saw him the second time he came in.
Okay. So you're looking at him, not paying attention to Corey, or you're not looking at him and paying attention to Corey?
Both.
You're doing both.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're saying that he was escorted out of the room. You don't know if he was escorted out of the room because he wanted to leave the room or because he was escorted out of the room because you were performing life-saving techniques.
I don't know why he was escorted.
Well, was he brought to a waiting room?
I'm assuming yes, he
Or
was.
is there a waiting room in Southern Ocean Medical Center?
There's multiple.
Okay. Is there a waiting room outside the pediatric unit or wherever we were where room 6 was?
He went to the family waiting room.
Okay. So what's the family room for?
People to sit there and,
Wait.
yeah.
Okay. And was he escorted out of there to sit and wait?
I guess I didn't escort him.
Is it the first time you've ever seen a person escorted out of a room in an emergency room?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
It's overruled.
No.
Okay. So people leave that room when things are being done to patients. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So now we have a tragedy. The child dies, and somebody goes to get him from the other room. Am I right?
Yes.
And we see him being brought into that room, right?
Yes.
Were you the blonde that was running around trying to hide him? Because there were a number of people in there.
No.
Okay. Where were you at that time?
With Corey.
Okay. So you were actually in treatment room 6?
Yes.
Okay. So while you were in treatment room 6, did you have an opportunity to see Christopher come in?
When he walked in briefly, yes.
Okay. Briefly. By the way, are you a member of Justice for Corey?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you see him brought in,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't pay any more attention to him.
No.
Okay, so you don't see them bring a chair over for him to sit in.
No, that was outside the room. I was
Okay.
inside the room.
Okay, so you don't see them bring. How big's the room?
Not very big.
Okay, so if this is the bed that Corey's in, where are you?
Right next to the bed.
Okay, so you're here. Where's the doorway?
That way.
How far?
A couple feet.
By their desk or closer to their desk?
Closer to their desk.
Okay. Is that right?
I guess, yeah.
Well, I wasn't there.
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying you're standing here and you don't see them bring a chair, you don't see him crying, you don't see any of that.
I didn't see them bring a chair, no.
Okay. Did you see it just now?
I did.
Okay. Did you see them have to bring screens to give him privacy?
We do that with every.
Did you do it in this one? I don't care about everybody else. Was it done?
It's common
Okay.
practice, yes.
Okay, but it was done, right?
Yes.
Okay. Was he having a breakdown?
Uh,
You don't know. Well, did you just watch the video?
I did. I saw the video.
Okay. When you saw the video, did you see him cry?
I saw him cry.
Did you see him show emotion?
Yeah,
Did you see him upset?
I guess.
Okay. Did you see him have to sit in a chair?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see people have to come to his aid? Did
Yes.
you see him put up privacy screens? You
Yes.
saw all that, right?
We always do that,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, you always do. But you did in this case, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So he was not emotionless. Right? We just saw the video.
He had lack of emotion.
Okay. Very good. As the nurse, by the way, you said you had 2 bruises. Do you know when you got those bruises?
I do not know.
Okay. Do you know when you got those bruises?
I do not know.
Okay. So, but you're aware of the record, right? Did he have any bony injuries to him?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Look at the record.
I don't read results, but I can look through these.
Judge,
Well, if it's outside your purview, I don't want you.
Well,
don't.
the question would be, would it refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
If it doesn't refresh your recollection, then having her read the record is nothing more than hearsay.
Right. Would it refresh your recollection to look through the record to see if he had any?
Yeah, but I don't know what happened after. Like, so I can look, but
No, that's
Well, only if you had the
No.
recollection previously, and the records would refresh your recollection.
no,
You
I
didn't
don't
know
have.
previously.
I don't know.
All right. Just aim that.
thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any read the way?
Where was the defendant located when he was emotionless?
In the room, in the room.
Now, when the defendant left the room, was Corey deceased at that time?
No, we were still providing life-saving care. There was no pronounced. Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions.
Anything further?
Maybe. When Christopher was brought back into the room from the waiting room, were you still doing life-saving techniques on Corey?
Yes.
Okay. So when he walked in, he was a witness to what was going on at the time.
Yes.
Okay. And that's when he reacted the way he reacted.
Yes.
Now, did there come a point where you stopped those life-saving techniques and then he was told that Corey had passed?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Read this.
Yes, certainly. Officer Ben will get back to this line.
Thank you.
Does it state another witness, or do you need another moment?
Judge, we have 1 second.
Sure. Ladies and
Thank
gentlemen, why don't we just take a 5-minute break? Go in the jury room, don't discuss the case, we'll have you back out.
All right.
In a couple minutes. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, it's 10:19, the jury's in the jury room, we'll give state an opportunity to make sure the witness is available, rather than just have the jury sit here with no witness. I'll be right back out when you're ready. Before we bring the jury back out?
No, Judge, thank you.
State of the next witness?
We do, Judge. The state will call Richard Cicerone.
Please do that again in front of the jury.
Yep, thank you, Judge.
10:32, Corporal Bennett to bring the jury up.
Jury out.
All right, thank you, everyone. State's going to call its next witness. Ms. Linton.
Thank you, Judge. The state will call Richard Cicerone, please.
Yes, sir, good morning. Come on in. If you could raise your right hand, face the court reporter, she will swear you in, sir.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Have a seat. Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Richard Cicerone, Cicerone.
Thank you, Ms. Linton.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Cicerone, where do you work?
I work for the Division of Child Protection and Permanency at the Child Abuse Hotline.
And what are your responsibilities at the Child Abuse Hotline?
We field phone calls that come into the hotline where a caller may be making abuse or neglect allegations, and then we route them to the appropriate source.
Are you considered a screener?
Yes, I'm a screener there.
And are the calls that come into the Child Abuse Hotline recorded?
They're all recorded, yes.
Now, on April 2nd at 10:04 a.m., did you receive a phone call through the Child Abuse Hotline from a person who identified himself as Chris Gregor?
I did.
And did you engage in a telephone conversation with Chris Gregor?
I did.
And was this telephone conversation recorded?
It was.
I'm now showing you what has been marked S45A for identification purposes. And do you recognize that?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors what that is?
It's an audio recording from that date between myself and the defendant.
Okay. And what you have in front of you, that's actually a flash drive.
Correct.
And the contents of the flash drive are what?
The audio recording of myself and the defendant from that date.
Okay. Now, you reviewed that audio recording before you came to court today,
Yes.
and you're familiar with it.
Correct.
I'm now showing you what has been marked S45B for identification. Can you tell the jurors what that is?
This is a transcript of the audio recording from that date.
And before you came to court today, you reviewed that transcript and you compared it to the contents, the audio recording on S45A.
Correct.
And does that transcript accurately depict the recording that you previously had reviewed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move S45A into evidence, permission to play the recording. And we'd also ask that the transcriptions be distributed to the jurors as well.
No objection.
Thank you.
All right, so S45A is in evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, S45B is the transcript. As with the other transcript we had earlier in the trial, the transcript is merely an aid for you to follow along. If you believe the recording is different than the transcript, your conclusion as to what's on the recording controls. In addition, I have to give you an instruction with respect to this. S45A is for your consideration as a recorded statement allegedly made by Mr. Gregor. It is your function to determine whether or not the statement was actually made by Mr. Gregor, and if made, whether the statement or any portion of it is credible. You may consider all the circumstances surrounding the statement in making the determination with the following caution. I instruct you that in this case, certain portions of the recorded statement have been blacked out or not provided to you. You'll see that marking on a couple of pages of the transcript. You may only consider those portions of the statement which are being admitted into evidence, and you must not speculate as to the contents of the omission or the reasons for the omission. As always, I'll give you that instruction at the very end of the case as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Judge.
Good morning. You've reached New Jersey Child Abuse Hotline. This call will be recorded for quality assurance. My name is Richard, Agent 1553. And your last name, how do you spell your last name?
Gregor.
And you calling from an agency or a facility today?
No.
And who's the child you're calling about? What's their name?
His name is Corey Micciolo, CoreyMicciollo.
And it was Corey, you said Corey?
Correct.
Okay, and what's his date of birth?
Date of birth, 2014.
And what's your relationship to him?
His father, and he primarily resides with me.
Okay, and what's your address at home?
It's 900 Barngate Boulevard North, Unit 903 in Barngate, New Jersey.
What was the unit number?
903.
Alright, and who else resides in your home?
Just my dog, my son, and me.
Alright, and who is the mother to the child?
That is the person I'm calling about. Her name is Brianna, Breanna, same last name.
Same last name as Corey?
Correct.
Okay, and where does she live at?
I'm unsure.
Do you have a phone number for her or anything like that?
I don't have it readily available, but you guys have been involved with us, so I'm sure that it's in the documentation somewhere.
Okay. Alright, and what were the concerns today for the child?
So, essentially, his mother has put in an emergency application after filing
For custody of the child?
yeah, so she essentially filed with DCP&P a abuse allegation, which there's a worker that actually involved. The worker came out to the house unannounced for his first visit, has discussed with my son privately what happened to the bruising that he had. My son had described that it was from football. Now, fast forward to yesterday, actually, it was this past weekend, my son's mother had she had the entire weekend, and she had called DCP&P on Friday. She called again on Sunday, which kind of made no sense in my mind, considering she had him that entire time. Nonetheless, now fast forward to yesterday. Yesterday, the DCP&P worker that we had been working with informed me that my son needed to go get an evaluation done within 7 business days, or 7 days, excuse me. His son's mother then decided that to take it upon herself during the 3-hour visit yesterday to take my son to the doctor, to the hospital, and she just went video silent, essentially from 7:30 until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had no idea what was going on. She would not leave my son's side, and I was not able to be there for my son. And then furthermore, my son came back this morning, and he was stating to me that his mom said that he had to tell the doctor that I had hit him and things of that nature and coaching him. I tried to call a caseworker, but of course he's not answering. She said that the caseworker told her to disregard the visitation and to go to the hospital. So, which I imagine is not the case, considering we had up to 7 days to do so, that it didn't have to be done the same day and against a court order.
So I mean, I can tell you that even not knowing this case at all, it's not something that DCP&P would, restrict any sort of contact without any sort of documentation or court order involvement, kind of stating that. So that does not appear accurate. But I mean, and I can obviously note what you're telling me, and I know that the worker didn't answer. The worker is probably, well, the offices are closed today, so this information will get, passed on to a worker. That way they can see this information as part of the case. But no, there's nobody available at this point in order for you to speak to.
No, and I figured as much, but I wanted to document that my son had came home today after he was supposed to come home at 7:30 last evening. His mother refused to leave his side, so I was not able to be there for my son. And he said it was at the direction of DCP&P. And furthermore, the big issue for me is, she put in the abuse outage and it said it to the worker twice. Once on Friday, once on Sunday, when the worker came back out. Now, after she had him for an extended period of time yesterday and had him at the hospital and was coaching him to say that I hit him, he said it. So my big concern is just, that her coaching is going to be disregarded, it's going to be regarded in his statement.
And I'll definitely make note of what you're saying, and the worker has to take all things into account. And I obviously can't speak for how the case itself is going to be managed, but I mean, I will note everything that we're talking about and make sure that the worker gets a copy of it.
Yeah, because realistically, the worker has spoken to my son at my residence, and my son's very comfortable here, so there's no issues with that. And my son, I need to know the worker was coming. So even if I wanted to do something like she did and coach my son to say a particular thing, I had zero time to do so.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted documenting that he came home and one of the first things the first two things he said to me is, I don't want to go with my mom anymore. She's going to try to take me away from you. And then he also said that, mom told me to lie, I had to lie. And that was a huge concern of mine.
I'll definitely make notice. I do have some mandated questions to ask you about your household, as well as mom's household. And if you don't know the answers, you can just tell me that you're unaware.
Sure.
All right. What's the race and language of everybody involved?
White and English.
Any domestic violence, criminal history, or current substance abuse issues for anybody that you're aware of?
Not my household, their household, yes. The mother has significant substance abuse issues with methamphetamines, amphetamines, and heroin. And I actually am highly concerned that she's relapsing at this time.
What can you say that she's relapsing at this time?
She's acting very erratic, and it's extremely out of character for her, and there's no rationale behind it.
Any special needs, disabilities, or diagnosed mental health issues?
Well, also I wanted to state that the mother's sister, so my son's aunt, who by court order is not supposed to be around my son, is around my son, and she just got out of jail for drug charges. And then there's also the criminal grant. Sure.
Any indication that the aunt is using around the child, and what's her name, actually?
Her name is Nicole, Micciolo, and last name. No indication that she's using around him, at least that I'm aware of.
And what were you going to say about the grandparent?
Maternal grandmother's boyfriend, who also lives at the household, is a two-time felon, convicted felony assault. And he is by court order not supposed to be there as well, but he is every time my son is there.
All right, and related to mom's drug issues, I know you said that you believe she relapsed. Any indication besides her acting erratic and irrational? Like, did anybody say they saw her to be influenced, or any specific evidence of her using drugs?
Not specific evidence in that regard. Also, she started hanging around her ex-boyfriend who she was using with. She's been around my son as well, which is also against court order.
Any safety concerns in either home for a worker? Any vicious animals, weapons?
No, not I'm aware of.
Any child prostitution, pornography, or forced labor regarding anybody?
Not here, and not that I'm aware of over there.
Any international travel for anybody within the last 14 days?
No.
Anybody either having COVID-19 or suspected to have COVID-19?
No.
And anybody having any series of respiratory infections, coughs, sore throat, anything like that?
No, but going back, I remember you asked a question about like mental disorders and things like that. The mother has PTSD from being bullied in middle school, and my son is diagnosed as emotionally disturbed. The classification he had when he lived with his mother based on the past aggressive behavior he showed, which does not exhibit anymore.
And I know that he's with you now. When is the next time he's due to see mom?
I believe it is next Tuesday.
What time do we know?
4:30 to 7:30, but knowing her, it'll go over and she'll find an excuse to justify bringing the court order again.
And that contact that she has with him when it happens, is it unsupervised?
Yes. Right.
All right, so this will go out to our Ocean South office. That way they have this information as documentation. Is there anything else I could do for you?
No, that's really it. I'm just, worried that if she coached him to say something, he came home and told me it, but, maybe it's going to be considered, and it's just a huge concern of mine. On top of everything else.
Well, if everything does work out, I'll definitely make this notification.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Mr. Cicerone, is that your voice on that recording?
Yes, it is.
And does that recording accurately depict your phone conversation with the defendant on April 2nd, 2021 at approximately 10:04 a.m.?
Yes, it does.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Lucia.
How are you, Mr. Cicero?
Good, thank Thank you.
So you work in a center, right?
Yes.
And you receive phone calls from different people during the day,
Yes.
and then it's your job to take the information, it's recorded as we see here, and then you pass it along, right?
Correct.
Now, do you have access at that time to any information about the case that the person is speaking to you about at your fingertips?
Yes, at that time.
Okay. So when Mr. Gregor is talking to you about her being directed, I believe it's on page 3 of 7, where he's telling you that she told him that she was to disregard the court order and go straight to the hospital, and you responded by saying that's something that DCP wouldn't do unless they had a court order, right, or something to that effect. Were you aware whether there was a court order at the time?
I was just making a statement for generally. I hadn't even looked really into the case to know about any history at that moment.
Okay.
So I was not aware there was or not a court order.
Okay. But it would be generally DCP&P's position as an employee there that they wouldn't make a recommendation like that unless they actually were told.
Objection,
to do
Judge,
that.
it's speculation.
Oh,
Well, based upon your experience and your knowledge, it would be speculation. Was that something in your experience and knowledge?
Can you repeat the question?
within your job purview, is it known to you whether DCP&P would do exactly what you just said here, where you said, I can tell you that even not knowing this case, it's not something DCP&P would restrict any sort of contact without any sort of documentation or court order. Do you know that to be true?
So there are times where, not necessarily with a court order, but other plans that DCP&P may put in effect, which may restrict contact between a parent and a child. I didn't know in that specific case at that very moment whether that was the case or not.
So you were unaware at the time you were taking this call whether there was any restriction whatsoever?
Correct.
Now, how would you say my client's demeanor was during that phone call?
When I refer to the call, honestly, he presented information that was concerning for him relating to, we all heard the call, relating to concerns that mom was coaching the child. He seemed concerned about that.
Okay, he wasn't aggressive, right?
He was not aggressive.
He seemed like a concerned father.
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Can you redirect?
Did the defendant say on that phone call that he made at 10:02 that Corey was injured?
No, he did not say anything about
Did
it.
he say in that phone call that he made at 10:02 on April 2nd that Corey was sick?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Judge.
Sir, thanks so much for coming in.
Yes, Judge.
Who's gonna?
The state would like to call Mike O'Hearn.
Hey, detective, come on up. Please raise your right hand. The court will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about the given proceeding will be the truth, the whole
Yeah.
truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Have a seat, please. You state your full name and spell your last name.
Michael O'Hearn, and it's O''Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
Who do you work for?
Ocean County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity do you work for the Sheriff's Department?
I'm currently a sergeant assigned to the crime scene unit of the Sheriff's Department.
And when did you begin your employment with the Ocean County Sheriff's Department?
June 21st, 2004.
Can you just talk louder?
Sorry.
There's a lot of people in here.
I have allergy issue right now. Sorry.
I apologize. When did you begin your employment?
June 21st, 2004.
Okay. Did you have any law enforcement experience prior to your employment with the Sheriff's Department?
I was Class 2 in Beach Haven Police Department for a short time.
All right. And in order to become employed by the Sheriff's Department, did you have any specific training?
I went through the Ocean County Police Academy.
Okay. And did you continue training since you became a officer or detective in 2004?
Yes. Once I was assigned to the crime scene unit, I attended a 6-week crime scene investigation course with the New Jersey State Police.
All right. And did you continue your training since then?
Yes.
All right. Could you give me some examples of the trainings that you've attended since then?
Yes. I've attended a medical legal death investigators course in St. Louis through St. Louis University. I've attended a basic arson course investigators through the Division of Criminal Justice. I attended a shooting reconstruction course, an advanced shooting reconstruction course, and there's various others.
Approximately how many investigations would you say you've been involved in since being assigned to the crime scene unit?
Say thousands.
And when did you get promoted to sergeant?
In 2018, May.
And I just don't remember, what year did you get assigned to the crime scene unit?
I was assigned to the crime scene unit February 22nd, 2011.
So from 2011 until your promotion, you were a detective there?
That's correct.
All right. And are you still assigned in the capacity of a sergeant today in
Yes.
that unit? All right. Did you become involved in the investigation into the death of Corey Micciolo?
Yes, I did.
All right. And what did you do in regard to your involvement?
On April 6, 2021, I responded to Alcoa Police Department in Alcoa, Tennessee with Detective Capuano from CSI, Detective Purcell from Barnegat Township Police Department, Detective Mitchell from Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, in reference to a search of Christopher Gregor's vehicle.
And why did you do that?
To search the vehicle.
Do you know where the vehicle was located?
Yes, the vehicle was located at Alcoa Police Department's impound lot.
Do you know how it got there?
Yes, it was seized during a traffic stop.
Okay. And do you know who the operator of the vehicle was?
Yes, Christopher Gregor.
Okay. And do you know if anybody else was present?
There was a passenger with Mr. Gregor.
Now, when you got to Tennessee, was the defendant still with the vehicle?
No,
Did you have any personal interactions with the defendant?
I did not.
Okay. And did you meet with anybody from the police department in Tennessee when you were there?
Yes, Detective Vandergriff and Detective Waters from Alcoa Police Department.
And so when you got down there, what, if anything, did you do?
I photographed the vehicle and conducted a search and inventory of the vehicle's contents.
Okay. So you said you searched the vehicle.
Correct.
All right. And you inventoried the contents?
That's correct.
Did you document your inventory of the contents anywhere?
Yes, I did, in my report.
Okay. And did you actually take anything from the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Did you document that anywhere?
Yes, I did,
Where'd you document it?
in the report.
Okay. And among the things that you took from the car, were there any electronic devices?
Yes, there were.
All right. Could you tell us what, if any, electronic devices there were?
Yes, there was a silver thumb drive collected from the driver's side rear seat. There was a white thumb drive collected from passenger side rear door pocket. There was a drone underneath the driver's side, or passenger side front seat. And there was a LG track phone inside of the center console.
What is a track phone?
It's a prepaid cellular phone.
Did you seize those items?
Yes, they were collected into evidence.
Okay. And did you recover anything, did you and the detectives you were with recover anything from the members of the Alcoa Police Department?
Yes, Detective.
Well, I'm sorry.
Detective Vandergriff turned over 2 cellular phones to me that were seized during the traffic stop.
Okay. Did all of these items that you've talked about come back to New Jersey?
Yes, they did.
And you said you took photographs?
Yes.
Mr. Gucci. 81, 82. Perfect. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Sir.
Sergeant, I'm showing you what's been marked as S81 and S82 for identification. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Are those photographs that you took in Tennessee on April 6th?
Yes, they are.
Okay, briefly, could you tell me what S81 is?
S81 is an overall vehicle, overall photograph of the exterior of the vehicle from the front.
Okay, and could you just, for our purposes, tell me what S82 is? Briefly.
S82 is a picture of the rear passenger area of the vehicle.
Thank you. And with regard to S81 and S82, does the vehicle and the interior appear in these exhibits to be in the same or substantially the same condition as they were in when you were in Tennessee with the vehicle on April 6, 2021?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to publish S81 and S82 and move them into evidence.
No objection.
S81 and S82 in evidence.
Ms. Lento, could you show S81, please? Okay. We're looking at S81. Could you please describe for the jury what is depicted in S81?
This is a picture of the exterior of the vehicle from the front view.
And S82, please? Could you please describe for the jury what's depicted in S82?
That is a picture of the inside of the passenger compartment, rear of the vehicle.
And was this photograph taken before you began your search and inventory?
Yes.
Other than the involvement that you just described, did you have any other involvement in this case before or after the events on April 6, 2021?
No, I did not.
No further questions.
How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, thanks. So, you flew down there to process the car and to seize whatever evidence you can seize from the car.
That's correct. We drove, but yes.
Good. All right, you drove down there. And as part of your job as a CSI, you retrieved things from the car,
Correct.
right? And you retrieved items, I believe it was 2 phones, were retrieved from Mr. Gregor and the individual he was with. Those were seized by Alcoa, Tennessee police at the time.
That's correct, sir.
And they took it, and then they handed it to you, and you vouched it the way you would vouch for it, I'm assuming?
Yes, I submitted it to evidence for chain of custody.
And then you brought it up here.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in addition to seizing items that you thought, the phones, the thumb drives, by the way, the 2 drives you found, were they labeled in any way?
I don't recall, sir.
Would it be in your report?
No.
Okay. So, did you also process the car to see if there was any evidence in the car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you find any blood evidence in the car?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you find any children's clothing in the car?
Any children's clothing? I don't recall. I'd have to review my inventory.
Do you have that?
I don't have a copy of my report, sir.
Did you receive anything when you processed the car of evidentiary value?
Yes.
Would you receive?
From the car. We collected the electronic devices. There was a bottle of GNC niacin pills from the passenger rear door compartment, and there was a track and field pole and a baseball bat.
Okay. And you took all those and processed them, and then you sent them to the lab?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know if the lab processed those items?
No, sir.
No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Detective, thanks for coming in. Sorry.
Thank you.
Do you have another witness available?
I do. I just wanted to set some things up on the table because I have quite a few exhibits.
Sure.
It won't take me very long.
You want to take a brief recess?
I'll defer to the court.
I'd rather have you go back in the jury room for a couple of minutes, ladies and gentlemen, while everyone gets ready. So thank you for your patience. We'll have you back out.
All right.
counsel at sidebar?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Is it okay if I move this stuff? All right, wait.
Late, I read a limiting instruction regarding the redacted recording. Madam Clerk, I ask you to mark that as Exhibit C next in order. We had a sidebar conference after that witness, and amongst other issues, discussed that Sergeant O'Hearn had testified that he had went to Tennessee and met with the defendant, among other things. Mr. Galucci previously marked as Exhibit C4 a charge on alleged flight. You want me to read that to the jury now after Sergeant O'Hearn's testimony?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so we'll bring the jury back in. I'll read that instruction, and at that point, state can call its next witness.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
11:10 a.m. Jury out, please.
All rise. Jury out.
Thank you, please. Ladies and gentlemen, before we hear from the next witness, I have to give you an additional instruction. There's been some testimony in this case from which you may infer that the defendant fled shortly after the alleged commission of the crime. The defendant denies that his acts constituted flight. The question of whether the defendant fled after the commission of the crime is another question of fact for your determination in this case. Mere departure from a place where a crime is being committed does not constitute flight. If you find the defendant fearing that an accusation or arrest would be made against him on a charge involved in the indictment, took refuge in flight for the purpose of evading the accusation or arrest on that charge, then you may consider such flight in connection with all other evidence in this case as an indication or proof of consciousness of guilt. Flight may only be considered as evidence of consciousness of guilt if you should determine the defendant's purpose in leaving was to evade accusation or arrest for the offense charged in the indictment. There has been some testimony in this case from which you may infer that the defendant fled shortly after the commission of the crime. The defense has suggested the following explanation, namely that the defendant was being threatened. If you find the defendant's explanation credible, you should not draw any inference of the defendant's consciousness of guilt from the defendant's departure. If, after consideration of all the evidence, you find that the defendant, fearing that an accusation or arrest would be made against him on the charge involved in the indictment, took refuge in flight for the purpose of evading the arrest or accusation, then you may consider such flight in connection with all other evidence in this case as indication or proof of consciousness of guilt. If you as judges of the facts, it is for you as judges of the facts to decide whether or not evidence of flight shows a consciousness of guilt and the weight to be given to such evidence in light of all the other evidence in this case. As always, I'll read that instruction to you as part of my final charge as well. We'll continue with the state's next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would like to call Raymond Coles.
Raymond Coles. Hi, Sergeant. Good morning.
Thanks, sir.
You could raise your right hand. The court will swear you in, sir.
Good morning.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Have a seat, sir.
Thank you.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Raymond Coles, Coles.
Ms. Trump.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Coles, if you can, because we have a court reporter today, just speak slowly enough that she can transcribe what you're saying, so we're not just being audio recorded. I have a habit of doing that, too.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed by the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office.
In what capacity are you employed there?
I'm the sergeant of the Digital Forensic Laboratory.
And how long have you worked for the prosecutor's office?
I was first hired by the prosecutor's office in July of 2014.
And what different roles and assignments have you held while employed at the prosecutor's office since then?
So when I first started working in the prosecutor's office, I was assigned to our grand jury unit, basically putting together grand jury discovery packets to go out for court proceedings. Did that until I went to the police academy as a detective in January of 2016. I maintained that role once I graduated the police academy until June of 2017 when I was transferred to the high-tech crime unit.
What does a detective or now a sergeant assigned to the high-tech crime unit actually do?
Sure. So we high-tech crime unit used to be composed of both an investigation component and a forensic analysis component. In October of 2023, we split the unit into specifically a forensic laboratory, and then we have a subunit that does investigations separately. So what I do is, in addition to continuing to conduct forensic examinations of devices such as cell phones, computers, digital video recorders, car infotainment systems, and other Internet of Things devices, I also supervise the other case detectives or the other detectives in my unit, as well as my civilian analyst. I assign cases, and I also help maintain our ISO 17025 accreditation for American Association of Laboratory Accreditation.
Is that any different than what you used to do before the unit was divided into a lab and then an investigations unit?
So prior to the unit being split, I primarily dealt with the digital forensic examinations of devices seized for criminal proceedings.
When were you promoted to a sergeant?
In October of 2023.
Could you give the jury the benefit of your educational experience?
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree from LaSalle University, in which I graduated in 2013.
All right. Do you have a CV?
I do.
All right. And would the CV help you explain what trainings you've had during the course of your career?
It would.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, I'm going to need to show the witness a number of things. Permission to approach throughout his testimony?
Right, you don't have to keep asking.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Could you tell me, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S119. Could you tell me what that is?
S119 is my CV.
Now, before we get to that, can you please explain to the jury what the field of digital forensics actually is?
I can. So generally, digital forensics is going to come down to two components. The first component is going to be the acquisition of devices, such as creating an image of a computer hard drive or doing an extraction of a cell phone. The second component of that is going to be processing those extractions within computer software and analyzing the contents of those devices.
What, if any, classes specific to digital forensics have you attended throughout the course of your career?
Sure. The most recognized course that I've been to was the IASIS. That's the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, the Basic Computer Forensic Examiner course. That was a 2-week-long course down in Florida. Once that course completed, there were 4 coach problems that require approximately 3 to 4 weeks to complete. Once those 4 problems are completed in succession, you then take a independent practical examination followed by an independent knowledge-based assessment. I passed that and received my IASIS Certified Computer Forensic Examiner certification in October of 2018.
Any other significant certifications or trainings that you held or have attended throughout the course of your career pertinent to digital forensics?
Sure. A few years ago, I took the IASIS Mobile Device Examiner course. And again, was a week-long course that I took online. That course ended with a knowledge-based and practical assessment, in which I also successfully passed that and received the IASIS Certified Mobile Device Examiner. In addition to IASIS, which would be a vendor-neutral certification, I also have specific vendor-specific certifications. Most notably with Celebrite. Celebrite is an Israeli company, and they have a program, or 2 programs. One is called Celebrite UFED 4 PC, which stands for Universal Forensic Extraction Device. The second is Celebrite Physical Analyzer. The Celebrate UFED 4PC was covered in what's been known as the Celebrate Certified Operator course, or the CCO. The Celebrate Physical Analyzer was covered in the CCPA course, which is Celebrate Certified Physical Analyzer. In addition to those, I have vendor-specific certification from Magnet Forensics for the Axiom program, which is another program that's used to parse artifacts from computers and cell phones. And I have the MCFE, the Magnet Certified Forensic Examiner. Just to go back to the Celebrate real quick, Celebrate has their capstone certification for cell phone examinations known as the CCME. That's the Celebrate Certified Mobile Examiner, and I believe I obtained that in October of 2020. Additionally, I have certifications from a company called Burla. Burla is designed for vehicle infotainment systems. So if you've ever seen, your car GPS or getting text messages through your car, Burla goes through the process of acquiring that from your mobile vehicle, as well as parsing out the artifacts in the program called IVE, or IV. In addition to those certifications, I've also partaken in proficiency testing or external proficiency testing through a company called Collaborative Testing Services. We do that as part of our laboratory accreditation, in which I've taken the proficiency examinations, and my answers were deemed to be consistent with what other examiners across the country were identifying.
You had said that you assisted with the lab accreditation. Is the lab's accreditation presently current?
The lab's accreditation is currently active, yes.
Okay.
We're being reassessed later this year.
Now, you also mentioned terms vendor neutral, vendor specific. What do you mean by that?
Sure. Vendor neutral is going to be, they don't have the tool themselves. They're just going across fundamentals. They might use multiple different tools to highlight different ways to acquire or look through data. A vendor-specific class is going to be using the vendor-specific tool. And, you might use additional tools to verify and validate artifacts covered from the vendor's tool to show you that, hey, look, our tool works.
And in addition to all of that, did you also attend the Ocean County Police Academy?
I did not attend the Ocean County Police Academy.
Which police academy did you attend?
I attended the Division of Criminal Justice Basic Course for Investigators in Seagirt, New Jersey.
When was that?
That was from January of 2016 until June of 2016.
And did that include more basic teaching about policing, not all of the specific training that you've done?
That was a more basic police investigations. Included standard physical training and defensive tactics. It was more emphasis on investigations as opposed to patrol responsibilities that a patrol officer would experience or encounter.
Are all of your certifications that you just named current?
They are.
Are you employed by anyone other than the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office?
I've been hired as an independent contractor for Celebrate to teach the CCO and CCPA classes, along with the CMFF, which stands for the Celebrate Mobile Forensic Fundamentals course.
And what type of training or certifications did you need in order to get that position?
The key requirement was to maintain the Celebrate Certified Mobile Examiner certification. I put down my resume to them when they were looking for more contract trainers. I went through a panel interview where I presented a lesson. They liked how I presented the lesson and let me attend their instructor development course. Once I completed the instructor development course, they do what's known as a shadow teach, where I teach the class in front of a master trainer or one of their senior trainers or members of their training staff, in which I'll present the course. If they like how I present the course, they would then let me stay on as a level 1 certified contract trainer.
And is that what you serve as for them now?
It is, yes. I went through my shadow teach in June of 2023, and I've currently taught 3 different weeks of classes for them, using my personal time away from the office.
And where have you done that?
The first one where I did the shadow teach was in New York at the Manhattan Attorney General's office. The second one was out of Iowa, and that's where we did a CMFF, the Celebrate Mobile Forensic Fundamentals course, paired with a CCO, a Celebrate Certified Operator course. And earlier this year, I went down to Vienna, Virginia, and taught the Celebrate Certified Operator and Celebrate Certified Physical Analyst course.
In the course of your career, could you approximate the number of digital forensic examinations that you've done while assigned to the prosecutor's office's high-tech crime unit?
Sure. So I've been assigned over 800 forensic investigations to do. Of those 800 cases, roughly 3,000 devices. I I've processed roughly 3,000 devices within the laboratory.
When you use the word device, what does that encompass?
So a device can be any digital media that's turned over to us, whether that's a hard drive that was found in somebody's room, a flash drive, a cell phone, a vehicle infotainment systems we spoke about earlier. Any electronic digital media turned over to our laboratory would be considered a device.
Approximately how many of those investigations that you've been involved in involved the use of Celebrate software?
Sure. Most of the forensics that we get assigned involve cell phones today. I don't have an exact ratio. I would say maybe around 80% all involve cell phones. Every single time I process a cell phone, I'm processing that cell phone within the Celebrate physical analyzer software. Depending on the type of phone or the extraction I'm looking for, those extractions will be obtained through the UFED4PC software.
I know that you told us a little bit about what Celebrate is as a company, but could you explain more of how it works?
Sure. So the extraction tool will work with the device, input a set of commands to the phone itself, and use that to then extract the data from the phone to a local computer or whatever you're setting the extraction to. There's different formats. There's like the UFED Touch, which is more like a tablet-based tool where you can extract to a computer or a hard drive. And then you have the Celebrate UFED4PC, which works off of a computer. We save those extractions directly to our forensic computers in the laboratory. Once those extractions are processed, they go through a process known as hashing. A hash is essentially going to be a digital fingerprint of that electronic media file. It's a mathematical algorithm that will set a fixed, using an MD5, a fixed 16-byte number, where if you change just one letter in that extraction, it'll generate a radically different value. So the hash is going to essentially create a fingerprint so I can know that that data is in the original state that it was obtained in. Once the extraction is conducted, we'll then process that extraction within the physical analyzer software. Once you're going through that software, it'll categorize different artifacts for you to kind of sift and sort through. It'll break down artifacts into contacts, call logs, messages. It'll subcategorize messages between different third-party or native applications on the device. So you can see messages from the regular, iMessages or SMS messages from an Android phone. You might see third-party apps broken down, such as Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. It'll break down media files to sort through images, videos, or audio files. You can search through web history, user accounts, user passwords. In addition to that, you could also filter through what's known as a timeline view, where you can see the raw output in chronological order for every activity happening on that device for a set date range. If you get more advanced, there's more advanced tools you can use within the software, such as going through the actual databases themselves and looking at the data, how it's natively stored on the device. You can use additional carving tools to try to recover additional data. And there's some other tools that you can use if you really want to get into the weeds.
Is this software available to anyone or just you?
It's publicly available software that anyone can acquire a license and utilize the software. Or I won't say anyone, but they will most likely, I believe some countries are not sold to, but most people in the U.S. trying to acquire it should be able to acquire it.
And in order to view these extractions, is there certain software that a person would need?
Sure. So if you wanted to view the phone extraction through Physical Analyzer, you would need a software license, or we call it a dongle, which is basically like a USB drive that plugs into the computer. You would need that in order to access the device or access the extraction. What Celebrate has is known as a Celebrate Reader, which is a portable light version of the Physical Analyzer software that does not require a license to use. Generally, when we receive a device in the laboratory, we will generate that Celebrate Reader report and pass it off to the case officers so that they can kind of go through and find what they're looking for.
You had described the analysis that you do and the creation of certain reports. Are those separate aspects of what you do using Celebrate?
It is.
And do you use any other software to assist you commonly with digital forensic investigations?
So we had spoke about Magnet Axiom before. In addition to the Celebrate software, we have another tool in the laboratory called Gregor, which can help with the extraction of Apple iPhone devices. At the time of this investigation, I believe it was only iPhones. But today you can also acquire Android-based devices as well.
Why would you need Gregor?
At the time, Gregor could obtain a deeper extraction of the device than what was possible through the UFED4PC software. And by deeper extraction, I mean it could obtain what's known as a full file system extraction, where it obtains the entire file system on the device. Best way to think of a file system is if you've ever been on a Windows computer and you click on the local disk C and you see all the little files and folders in that hierarchical structure. It'll allow you to kind of go through the actual phone in that capacity.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in digital forensic examination in the state of New Jersey or any other jurisdiction?
I've been brought in as an expert within the Ocean County courthouse, approximately for 5 criminal cases, including motions where I brought in separately. I've been qualified as an expert about 10 times.
Your Honor, at this time, the state offers Sergeant Raymond Coles as an expert in the field of digital forensic examinations and analysis.
No objection.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my function to give you an instruction. I'm going to grant the state's application for Sergeant Coles to testify as an expert witness in digital forensic examination. As a general rule, witnesses can only testify as to facts known by them. This rule ordinarily does not permit a witness to express an opinion and let it be received in evidence. However, an exception to this rule exists in the case of an expert witness who may give his or her opinion as to any matter in which he or she is versed, which is material to this case. In legal terminology, an expert witness is a witness who has some special knowledge, skill, experience, or training that is not possessed by the ordinary juror, and who thus may be able to assist the jury in understanding the evidence presented and determining the facts in the case. In this case, Sergeant Coles is being called as an expert witness in digital forensic examination by the state. You are not bound by any such opinions he gives, but you should consider each opinion and give it the weight to which you deem it is entitled, whether that be great or slight, or you may reject it. In examining each opinion, you may consider the reasons given for it, if any, and you may also consider the qualifications and credibility of the expert. It is always within the special function of the jury to determine whether the facts on which the answer or testimony of an expert is based actually exist. The value or weight of the opinion of the expert is dependent upon and is no stronger than the facts on which it is based. In other words, the probative value of the opinion will depend upon whether, from all the evidence in this case, you find that those facts are true. You may, in fact, determine from the evidence in this case that the facts that form the basis of the opinion of the expert are true, are not true, or are true in part only. And in light of such findings, you should determine what weight to be given to the opinion of the expert. Your acceptance or rejection of the expert opinion will depend, therefore, to some extent, on your findings as to the truth of the facts relied upon. The ultimate determination of whether or not the state has proven the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt is only to be made by the jury. As always, I'll give you that expert instruction part of my final charge. Thank you. Ms. Trump.
Thank you. Sergeant Coles, did you become involved in an investigation surrounding the death of Corey Micciolo?
I did.
Do you recall when that was?
It was in April of 2021.
Now, in association with that, did you prepare written reports?
I did.
Did you prepare notes?
I did.
Would your ability to have those reports and notes in front of you while you testify aid you today?
They would.
I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S116, 117, and 118. Could you please tell me what S116 is?
S116 is an analysis report in regards to specific questions that were proposed to me by the state when they were reviewing this case.
Could you tell me what S18 is?
S18 is the generic report describing the extractions of the devices that were conducted and the evidence in this case.
And could you tell me what S17 is?
S117 are the notes associated with the initial report. Just to go back, the initial report was CF 210081.
What is that? What's the significance of that?
That is our internal laboratory number for that case.
And all of those are multi-page reports?
They are.
Now, as part of your involvement, did the high-tech crime unit participate in the collection of video evidence from anywhere?
We did.
Where?
So the first video that we pulled in this investigation was from the Atlantic Heights apartment complex in Barnegat, or townhouse complex in Barnegat. And the second one we assisted with partially was the Southern Ocean Medical Center.
With regard to the Atlantic Heights apartment complex, could you tell me when that occurred and how it came about?
Sure. We were requested to go out there on April 3rd, and we were requested to pull all surveillance video from the system from March 20th to April 2nd of 2021.
Did you do that?
We did. So in this case, it's a fairly large range of video to request to be pulled. If we were to use the internal export through the DVR itself, something like that, exporting to flash drives would take a very, very long time. In this case, we actually took the hard drive out of the DVR. We lent them a loaner drive so their system continued to work. We transferred their drive to the digital forensic laboratory. We hooked that up to what's known as a forensic write blocker to prevent any reader writes to the original source media. We then scanned that disk with a program called DVR Examiner, which then scans through the file system of the digital video recorder and identifies all the clips on that device. The clips in the date range were then exported out into an MP4 format so that the case officers could review the files that they were looking for.
Based upon the investigation, were you able to identify a time frame of significance?
Yes. It was identified on March 20th at approximately 4:20 or 4:18 p.m. We identified Mr. Gregor and Cora Micciolo inside of the gym facility at the apartment complex.
Did you ever obtain any other surveillance from the gym complex?
We did. So in July of 2021, the Barnegat case officer on the case had requested us to burn all video from the gym camera off that system. So what it did is, after we had processed the video from the initial extraction, we created what's known as a forensic image of the DVR hard drive, which is going to be a bit-for-bit copy of the entire drive saved to our forensic computer in the laboratory. I loaded that forensic image into the DVR Examiner program again in July and exported all the video obtained from that. So I believe the clips went back to about January 30th of 2021.
Did you provide that video or information to the case detective?
It was.
And did that include just the gym or other views?
The second export just contained the gym footage.
The first one did that
contained all cameras.
Are you familiar with the term time offset?
I am.
What does time offset mean?
So time offset is going to be the distance of time between the actual and accurate time value versus what's being displayed on the device's user interface or device's screen.
And are you aware if the term time offset applied to the footage that you said you received from March 20th, 2021? I think you said it about 4:18 p.m.
Yes. So what we normally do is we'll take a picture of the, kind of like the home screen where you see all the different camera views. From that picture, we'll make sure the timestamp is recorded in the photograph. We'll then compare the metadata of the photograph we took, which has a known accurate time value if we use our phones on a cellular network. And then I'll compare the offset that way. In this case, the DVR was approximately 2 seconds slow.
I'm showing you what's been marked as S18, A, B, C, D, already in evidence and already published to the jury. Do you recognize what that is?
I do. It's a USB flash drive.
Okay. Do you know what's on it?
Specific 4 videos exported from the DVR that were provided to the case officer.
Have you reviewed them prior to coming to court today?
I have.
And is it a copy of the same footage that you reviewed from the time frame that you identified?
It's an exact copy of the exported video.
Thank you. In addition to the surveillance from Atlantic Heights, did you recover footage from anywhere else? I think you said Southern Ocean Medical Center?
I did. So we were requested to get video from Southern Ocean Medical Center. The security staff would not let us pulled video footage ourselves, most likely due to HIPAA violations where we might get other patients in there. So we provided them with legal authorization, and they then burned the requested time frame, which was when Mr. Gregor arrived to the hospital with Corey and when Mr. Gregor left the hospital.
Do you remember when you obtained that?
I believe the video was initially provided on April 5th, but when they gave us the DVDs containing the footage, only one of the 9 DVDs actually had footage on it. The rest of the DVDs just contained hyperlinks to files themselves. Since the videos weren't saved on the actual DVDs, the hyperlinks would not open any files. We contacted them and obtained a second copy of the videos that then worked, I believe on April 8th.
So just to clarify, you provided the hospital with a time frame of significance?
We did.
Okay, and the hospital chose the surveillance footage?
They did.
And provided it to you?
They did.
All right. I'm showing you what's been marked as S48A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. I think there's 9 of them.
Yes.
Could you take a look at them?
Yes.
And do you recognize all of those discs?
Yes, they're DVDs that or CDs that contain the provided footage from the hospital.
Did you review those before coming to court today?
I have.
Are they exact copies of what you received from the hospital when you recovered the footage, I guess, the second time when it was correct?
They are.
Now, with regard to time offset that you described earlier, does that apply to these as well?
So these videos were identified, the time on these videos was identified not to be accurate. So it does apply.
Were you able to determine the time set with respect to the time offset with respect to any of those videos?
I did, specifically exterior camera. What I did in this case is I compared location data recovered from Mr. Gregor's iPhone, which was consistent with him pulling up to the hospital. I compared the timestamp of the location data with the timestamp in the surveillance video and identified the exterior camera was approximately 3 hours and 3 minutes fast.
Does that apply to S48A and I?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, permission to admit and publish S48G, H, and I.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
S48G, H, and I in evidence.
Your Honor, may I please sit down just for a brief moment so I can operate the computer?
Sure.
Thank you. Sergeant, I'm showing you what's been marked as S48G. Sergeant, are you aware if the timestamp on that video is correct?
Again, I believe it's off by a few minutes.
Showing you what's been marked as S48H. Are you aware if the timestamp on that video is correct?
I'm not.
And next, showing you S48I. Are you aware if the timestamp on that video was correct?
That one's not. That video is going to be 3 hours and 3 minutes fast. In this case, I also had location data from his phone. I noticed that he was on his cell phone when he was walking out of the building. I identified that he had a call log, I believe, to his father at 5:20 p.m., which would be that 3 hour and 3 minute offset.
So that was approximately 5:20 p.m.
Yes, it was.
In addition to completing the collection of video that you just described from Atlantic Heights and the Southern Ocean Medical Center, was the high-tech crime unit asked to complete full device extractions on any cell phones?
We were.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as S124 for identification. And instead of walking back and forth, I'm also going to show you what's been marked as S125 for identification. Could you just take a look at those, please? First, with respect to S124, do you recognize that picture?
I do.
What is that a picture of?
This is a picture of Miss Micciolo's Samsung Galaxy A10e smartphone.
Brianna Micciolo?
Brianna Micciolo.
And do you know if there's a phone number associated with that phone?
I do. Top of my head, I'm just going to look at the report that I have here. The phone number of that phone is 732-912-6711.
Did the phone depicted in S124 come into the possession of the high-tech crime unit?
It did.
Do you know when that was?
It was April 3rd of 2021.
And do you know what the purpose was of taking possession of the phone?
To conduct a full device extraction in order to search for any evidence related to the death of Corey Micciolo.
And do you know who provided the phone to the high-tech crime unit?
I believe the phone was turned over by Detective Joseph Mitchell from the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office.
Did anyone in your unit make any efforts to examine the data contained on that device?
They did.
Okay. And could you explain how that was done?
Sure. So the device we got initially, we did what's known as a full file system extraction of the device. This type of device uses what's known as file-based encryption. A full file system extraction is the highest level of extraction possible for this type of device. That extraction was conducted utilizing the UFED4PC software we had spoken about, and then the extraction was processed within the Celebrate Physical Analyzer software. The full decoded results of the extraction were generated into the Celebrate Reader report, which was provided to the case officers for their review.
Were you able to ultimately review and analyze that extraction?
I did.
And were you able to determine if that actually came from Brianna Miccio's Samsung Galaxy?
It did, yes.
How were you able to do that?
Sure. Easiest way is to look at user accounts on the device and see different user accounts for different third-party applications that has her name on it. The device phone number matched the reported phone number that was belonged to Ms. Micciolo. And when I looked at it, again, it was labeled with our case number, which is the CF210081, specifically item number 1. And that's how it was stored in the folder, and that's where it was when I got it.
With respect to S125, do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
It's a picture of Mr. Gregor's Apple iPhone.
And is there a phone number associated with that phone?
There is.
Could you tell us what it is, please?
Sure. The phone number on this device was 60.
Aware of what model iPhone that is?
It's an Apple iPhone 11.
And how did that come into the possession of the high-tech crime unit?
It was turned over to us by Detective Dennis Mitchell of the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office.
Do you know when that was?
I believe it was turned over on April 8th. Yeah, April 8th.
And do you know what the purpose was in the high-tech crime unit taking possession of that phone?
Yes. The purpose of this device was, again, to conduct a extraction of the device in order to search for evidence related to the death of Corey Micciolo.
Now, did anyone make any efforts to examine the data contained on that device?
They did. So initially, when we processed the extraction, we provided the full extraction to the case officers they review. Later on, I took I reviewed the contents of that phone extraction.
Do you know how that was done?
So in this case, we utilized the tool called Gregor, which could obtain the deeper extraction of an iPhone to get us that full file system extraction. Just like the Samsung phone before, the Apple iPhone 11 utilizes file-based encryption. The full file system extraction is the highest possible extraction to be done on this device that's possible. Once that extraction was conducted, it was processed within the physical analyzer software, and again, those results were generated into a separate reader report.
With regard to both phones that you talked about, did you have passcodes for them?
We did.
And did you ultimately review and analyze the extraction that came from S125?
I did.
And were you able to determine if the extraction that you reviewed actually came from that phone?
I did.
How did you do that in that case?
In the same manner for different Ms. Miccio's phone. Compared the known phone number that was reported to be his phone number was taken from his person, and user accounts, or his vehicle, I'm not sure, and user accounts associated with him were turned over to us, or identified on the device that was turned over to us.
I think that you explained this earlier with regard to how an extraction is divided up in the reader. Would that explanation apply to this cell phone extraction?
It would.
Now, if you were to print the extraction from this cell phone, the defendant's cell phone, approximately how many pages would that be?
91,000.
And if you were to print just the text messages from the defendant's iPhone 11, how many pages would that be?
About 15,000.
Now, how much of the defendant's cell phone extraction did you review from April 1st of 2021 through April 4th of 2021?
Sure. I looked through all web history, all chats, whether it be from native chatting applications, third-party chatting applications, call logs, media files. So the standard areas that anyone looked through.
Did you review any other portions of the extraction from the defendant's cell phone?
We did. Some of the chat threads, specifically between the April 1st to April 4th range, began well before April 1st. So in condition with those, reviewed some of the artifacts, reviewed some of the chat messages prior to, call logs prior to.
And did you review other artifacts from March of 2021 in that phone?
Yes.
Now, as a result of your review, were you able to isolate certain items like calls and photos, text searches contained within Ms. Miccio's phone and the defendant's iPhone 11?
I did.
Now, could you explain exactly what an artifact is?
Sure. So an artifact essentially is going to be a specific entry in that device. So if you have a call log, May 7th, 2024 at 12 o'clock, that one call would be one artifact. Say you had a text message yesterday. That text message by itself would be one artifact. If you wanted to group all text messages together from one conversation, you could either consider the conversation itself to be an artifact or every single individual message in that conversation to be an artifact. So basically an artifact is any individual entry identified within the extraction.
I see counsel at sidebar before you go further. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. We're going to continue with the testimony. Mr. Rollins.
Sergeant Coles, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S123. Could you take a moment and review S123? Do you recognize it?
I do.
Could you explain to us what S123 is?
This is an excerpt of call logs taken from Mr. Gregor's Apple iPhone 11.
Could you tell us how that was created?
Sure. So in this case, this is not the entire call log on the device for this date range. Specific entries were checked and then exported into a PDF report.
So those are excerpts of phone calls.
That's correct.
And what type of information is available from a call log like S123?
Sure. You'll see whether the call was incoming or outgoing, the party the call was connected to, the date and time of that call, the duration of the call, and the status of that call as well.
Do you know where those call log excerpts came from on S123?
From the actual file system of the phone itself, or
Whose phone?
Mr. Gregor's.
Okay. And sure, from the file system itself.
Sure. So the directory would read as private/var, VAR/mobile /library/call history DB, and then inside of that you have a file called the call history.store data, which stores the call logs on an Apple iPhone.
Is there a date and time range indicated on S123?
Sure. The first entry on here is April 1st, 2021 at 4:36 p.m. And the last entry on here is April 2nd at 5:25 p.m.
Now, with regard to the phone numbers listed on S123, were you able to determine who they belong to?
I believe so, yes.
Do the phone calls listed on S123 accurately depict the information that you got in the call log on those selected phone calls?
They do.
Your Honor, permission to admit S123 into evidence and have the witness describe it to the jury.
No objection.
S123 in evidence.
Could you take us through the call log and go selected call by selected call through S123, including who the caller is, who the receiver is, date, time, duration, everything that you described?
Sure. The first call on here was from the number 1-201-317-0741. Identified to belong to Mark, I believe Wojciechowski from DCP&P. That call was on April 1st, 2021, at 4:36:10 p.m. Again, that was an incoming call. The call lasted for 3 minutes and 44 seconds.
When you say incoming call, what do you mean?
It was a received call on device. It was not an out. If an outgoing call would be me calling you, an incoming call would be you calling me. Okay. Assuming we're working with my phone.
And you just said the time. Are you familiar with the term UTC?
I am.
Could you please tell us what UTC is?
So UTC is going to refer to Universal Coordinated Time. Essentially, UTC is going to be the time along the prime meridian in Europe, which is going to be 0 UTC. All other time zones are based off of that time zone. Eastern Standard Time is 5 hours behind UTC. When we spring forward during daylight savings time, we spring forward, so -5 + 1 would be -4. So therefore, during Eastern Daylight Time, we are 4 hours behind UTC.
All right. So if it is 12:07 p.m. now, what would that be in UTC?
4:07.
And the times that you're giving are automatically adjusted to our time zone.
That's correct. So when you're dealing with the phone extraction itself, majority of the time in the databases, the date and times are going to be stored in UTC. The Celebrate software is converting it to our time, since that was the identified time zone on Mr. Gregor's phone. And you can change it to different time zones, depending on what needs or what you need for your investigation or analysis.
What happens if that phone goes into other time zones?
So those time zones, again, every time is in UTC. So it'd be automatically converted to show us in our time zone. So if a time happened at a different time, it would just be an hour. If we went west, it'd be an hour slower on ours.
Could you please continue with S123?
Sure. The second entry is going to be another call log from Mark from DCP&P, the 120. This is another incoming call on April 1st, 2021 at 5:26:49 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And from now on, all these will be in Eastern Daylight Time. It's easier to say. The call lasted for 1 minute and 53 seconds.
Please continue.
The third entry is another call log from Mark from DCP&P, 201-317-0741. This call was on April 1st, 2021 at 7:24:48 p.m. And that call lasted for 1 minute and 27 seconds.
Was that incoming or outgoing?
That was an incoming call.
Please continue.
Next call was an outgoing call to Brianna Micciolo, 732. Call went out on April 1st, 2021 at 7:27:05 p.m. and that call lasted for 37 seconds.
Please continue.
The next call was another outgoing call to Miss Micciolo. Lasted for 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Please continue.
Just real quick, do you want me to read the entire phone number with the name, or if we have a name associated, would it be easier just to read the name?
I would ask that after you've already testified to who the phone number is associated with, you could please recite the name as it's saved in the contact in the phone.
Sure.
No objection to that, Judge.
That's fine, please do that.
And if there's no contact saved in the phone, do you want to just read the phone number, or if we know who it belongs to, just to say the contact?
You can read the phone number and who it belongs to, please, in that instance.
Sure. Okay. The next call in this entry is another outgoing call to Brianna Micciolo, or Brianna M. The phone call was on April 1st, 2021 at 8:42:02 p.m., and this call lasted for 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Please continue.
The next outgoing call is to the number 732. It belonged to the Neptune Police Non-Emergency Line. That call was sent at April 1st, 2021 at 8:43:45 p.m., and that call lasted for 38 seconds.
When you say sent, does that mean outgoing?
It does.
Next one.
The next outgoing call is again to the 732, which is going to be the Neptune Non-Emergency Line. That call was on April 1st, 2021 at 8:44:32 p.m. That call lasted for 5 minutes and 36 seconds.
Please continue.
The next outgoing call was to the number 7. Jersey Shore University Medical Center in Neptune, New Jersey. That call was on April 1st, 2021 at 8:51:19 p.m. and that call lasted for 10 minutes and 14 seconds.
Please continue.
There's another outgoing call to the 732, which is again the Neptune Non-Emergency Line. That call took place on April 1st, 2021 at 9:11:43 p.m. That call lasts for 12 minutes and 35 seconds.
Please continue.
Next outgoing call is to the number 609, which is identified to belong to the Barnegat Police Department. That call was was sent on April 1st, 2021 at 9:33:01 p.m. and lasted for 1 minute and 44 seconds.
Please go on.
Next outgoing call was to the number 0, which was previously identified as Jersey Shore University Medical Center in Neptune. That call took place on April 1st, 2021 at 9:56:34 p.m. and lasted for 7 minutes and 12 seconds.
Please move on.
The next number was the 201, which belonged to Mark from DCP&P, which took place on April 1st, 2021 at 10:06:27 p.m. and lasted for 1 minute and 18 seconds.
Please continue.
Next outgoing call was April 1st at 10:51:10 p.m. I believe that number was associated with the Stafford Police Department, and that call lasts for 6 minutes and 8 seconds.
Please continue.
Next outgoing call was the number. That call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 8:34:02 a.m. and was not answered.
Please continue.
Next outgoing call was identified to be the Ocean County Superior Court. That was on April 2nd, 2021 at 9:06:04 a.m.
Please continue.
The next this is associated with Hackensack Meridian medical records, and that was on April 2nd, 2021 at 9:55:04 a.m. and lasted for 1 minute and 39 seconds.
Please continue.
The next number, this is identified to be associated with the Jersey Shore medical records. This call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 10:00:54 a.m. and lasted for 25 seconds. Excuse me, 1 minute and 19 seconds.
Please continue.
Next outgoing call, that was identified as the local DCP&P affiliate for Ocean County in Toms River. The call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 10:00:54 a.m. and lasted for 25 seconds. I think, did I read the 10:00:54 twice? The previous call log for the My Chart was 9:56:55 a.m., if I misspoke with that.
Okay. And just to stop you there, when you say, I'm sorry, 9:56:04?
The 9:56:55 was for the Monmouth, Jersey Shore My Records, and then the DC was 10:00.
When you give the 10, are you referring to the hour?
Yes,
And then the next two are the minutes?
that's correct.
And then are the next two the seconds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It goes hours, minutes, seconds.
Okay, I was just checking.
Sure.
Could you please continue?
The next number was called. That number is identified to be with the DCP&P hotline. The call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 10:02:42 a.m. and that call lasted for 12 minutes and 38 seconds.
Please continue.
Next call was the contact mom in Mr. Gregor's device. That call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 3:10:05 p.m. and lasted for 13 minutes and 10 seconds.
Please continue.
The next call was an outgoing call to 2021 at 3:25:11 p.m. and the call was not answered.
Please continue.
The next call was an incoming call from the number Micciolo. That call came in on April 2nd, 2021 at 3:25:40 p.m. and lasted for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Please continue.
The next call was an outgoing call to the phone number was identified with a Marcy Bragna, who was an associate of Mr. Gregor. The call took place on April 2nd, 2021 at 4:36 p.m. and was not answered.
How were you able to identify that that was Ms. Bragna?
Sure. So within his phone, there was a Tinder conversation with a contact named Marcy. Mr. Gregor matched with her on the dating app in January of 2021, talked for a couple days. Mr. Gregor reinitiated contact with her on March 17th of 2021, where they spoke for a few more days, and at the end of that conversation, she provided that phone number, and then he then proceeded to text that phone number. And then I believe the case officer looked up the phone number identified to belong to a Marcy Bragna.
Could you please move on?
Sure. The next call is another outgoing call to the 267 Bragna, which took place at 4:42:45 p.m., and that was not answered.
Please continue.
The next call was an incoming call from Brianna and April 1 at 5:00:08 p.m., and that was a missed call.
Please continue.
The next call was a missed call from Brianna Micciolo on April 2nd at 5:00:44 p.m.
Please continue.
The next call was another incoming call from Miss Micciolo at 5:04:08 p.m. and was also labeled as missed.
Please continue.
The next call was from 6:09 Cerulli of the Barnegat Police Department. The call came in on April 2nd at 5:47 p.m. And this call was rejected.
When you say rejected, what do you mean by that?
You hit the side button on the phone to send it straight to voicemail.
Please continue.
And the last entry on here is another number from 2021 at 5:25:27 p.m. And that was a missed call from Sergeant Cerulli.
And just to be clear, when you say next, you mean next on the exhibit
That's right.
S123 excerpts?
I do.
Okay. Your Honor, would you like me to move on to the next section of the witness's testimony now? I'm prepared to do so, or do you want me to save it? I'll defer to the court.
You mean in terms of the lunch break?
Yes.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we do that? Because the testimony obviously is going to be continuing for a while, so you take your lunch break. Again, report back to jury assembly. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Don't do any research or look anything up. If anyone talks to you, please bring it to our attention right away. Don't tell your fellow jurors. I would say 1:30 at jury assembly. Thanks so much.
So I know who's who. Yes.
Thank you. All right, jury's out of the courtroom at 12:19. Anything from counsel outside the presence of the jury? You can see, folks.
No, Judge, thank you.
No, Judge.
All right, we had a discussion at sidebar regarding anticipated testimony about deleted text messages, and court's provided a proposed charge to the attorneys, and Ms. Ferranti is going to address that issue. You want to do that after the lunch break, or do you want any more you'd like to say now that we didn't say at sidebar?
Nothing additional right now.
All right. Nothing else, then I'll see everybody at 1:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge.